Hello. This is a homily for the 30th Sunday of the year, and today we hear about God announcing early on his initiatives to help Israel, and then we go to Jesus in the New Testament where he literally demonstrates how the help that is meant for Israel is coming through him as the Messiah. So in the reading from Jeremiah in the Old Testament, we have Jeremiah passing on this oracle that he receives from God, and the oracle is that the people are now in exile, but God will gather them and bring them back. And so you have these beautiful images of Israel celebrating. The Lord has delivered his people. Behold, I will bring them back from the land of the north. I will gather them from the ends of the earth, and the blind and the lame in their midst, the mothers and those with children, etc., etc. And I will bring them back, guide them and console them, for I am a father to Israel. And we're going to hear about the Father in the New Testament, not in this reading specifically, but in the New Testament, where the Father sends the Son, who we do hear about. In the responsorial psalm, it's Psalm 126, we have the people who now have been restored being in a situation where they can celebrate. And so when the Lord brought back the captives from Zion, we were like men dreaming, then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with rejoicing. And then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. So we have this extra aspect that what God is doing for Israel is really exemplary, in the hope that the other nations, because this is only one nation, the other nations would see this being done by their God and value it so much. The Lord has done great things for us, we are glad indeed. Restore our fortunes, O Lord. This is the people coming back from exile. Although they go forth weeping, they shall come back rejoicing. Last line, carrying their sheaves. So they are in a safe land, a fertile land that can produce sheaves. Because quite often in various periods in the Old Testament, you have people having their crops burned out before they can even have a chance to harvest them. The second reading, taken from Hebrews, as again we did last week, you have Hebrews explaining about the high priest, who is Jesus Christ, but Hebrews is using the imagery and the symbolism from the temple cult to try and explain this extraordinary new phenomenon, the Messiah being present among his people. He is able to deal patiently with the ignorant and the erring, for he himself is beset by weakness. So here you have a link with the readings from Hebrews for last week, but the additional aspect here is that this Messiah that Hebrews is talking about was called by the Father to become the Messiah. In other language, the Father sent the Son to be the Messiah. It's not Christ who glorified himself, but the one who said to him, "You are my Son," lifting some words out of yet another psalm. "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek," recognizing that the priesthood is probably the best interpretive structure for understanding who Christ is, the one who offers sacrifice and, when necessary, offers himself. The gospel is from Mark chapter 10, And in Mark chapter 10, you have this well-known story of Jesus healing the blind man. And we go through this back and forth before he actually, the blind man actually ends up in front of Jesus. And he threw aside his cloak, sprang up, and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him in reply, "What do you want me to do for you?" Now, there's two levels to this question. There's a question to Bartimaeus, but there's also a question to us. Are we really clear what we're asking from God? The blind man replied to him, "Master, I want to see." Now, again, seeing is multi-layered here in Mark. And so Jesus says, "Go on your way, your faith has saved you." He received his sight and followed him on the way. So when he sees, he doesn't just see in the physical sense of his eyes functioning properly, but because of his faith, he was the one who called out to Jesus in the first place. Because of his faith, he sees the Messiah standing there in front of him. And he knows this man is the answer to the faith and the hope that he has had in his life, probably since he was a child. He received his sight and followed him, Jesus obviously, on the way. Again, way is a multi-layered word. On the one hand, you could think about it simply as following him along the road where Jesus takes his disciples and goes to the next town. But the word way began to be applied very early on, and we find it in Paul's letters. The word way began to be applied to Christianity. It is a way, it's not a religion, the way other religions operate. And consequently, because it is a religion of a practice rather of faith, it is different from religions. Religion, the word religion, has much more this time aspect that you should do some kind of offering once a week, and then what you do the rest of the week is irrelevant. With the way, Christian practice, we are supposed to be Christians 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, all of us have a struggle with this. We meet Catholics who are 30-minute Catholics. They can get 30 minutes of Catholicism into an average day. The rest of the time they behave according to their social class or their economic class, or according to their own passions and so forth. And the trick here is to become a 24-hour Christian, because it is a way of life. And Bartimaeus, in this case, is pointing us in that direction, that we have to find the way of life that Christ is teaching us. Thank you.